When a man who is already committed begins seeking you out, it's natural to feel a surge of validation, because attention can be intoxicating when it arrives wrapped in forbidden circumstances. But the truth beneath that attention is far more revealing of him than it is affirming of you. And this is where your clarity matters more than your curiosity. His pursuit tells a story about his standards, his boundaries, and the type of behavior he finds acceptable when no one is watching. It's easy to misinterpret his interest as emotional depth, as chemistry, or as fate placing you in the right place at the right time, but what you're really seeing is a man demonstrating his comfort with secrecy. What he does behind his partner's back today is a window into what he is capable of doing behind yours tomorrow. And that's a reality too many people ignore until the consequences arrive. The more you allow yourself to believe his words about dissatisfaction or emotional disconnect, the more you risk attaching meaning where there is only convenience. Someone who truly respects you is not going to start your story with a betrayal of someone else. They will step toward you cleanly, transparently, and with integrity. When a man comes to you this way, the message is not that you are special. It is that he is careless with commitments. The tendency to feel flattered when a taken man pursues you is understandable because it feels like being chosen above someone else. But attention does not equal intention, and desire does not equal devotion. A man who is already in a relationship but still searches for connection outside of it is not showing emotional strength. He is revealing emotional impulsivity. He is showing that when faced with dissatisfaction, instead of communicating, confronting, or resolving, he will reach outward for a quick fix. You become the escape from his reality, not the investment in his future, and the dynamic becomes built on conditions that do not honor you. His willingness to cross emotional boundaries is not a reflection of your worth, but a reflection of his inability to uphold the promises he made to someone else. It's important to understand that a man who cannot set boundaries with himself will not suddenly develop stronger boundaries once he's with you. The version of him you meet during secrecy is a curated version, the charming one, the attentive one, the emotionally expressive one, because he only brings you the parts of him that feel good. You do not see the avoidance, the conflict patterns, or the unhealed gaps he hides from his partner. And if he can shift the rules of commitment for you once, he can shift them again when the novelty fades. Recognizing this isn't about judgment. It's about protecting your emotional well-being by viewing his behavior through the lens of long-term truth rather than short-term validation. When a man begins to pursue you while he is taken, he is revealing not only what he is willing to do, but also what he expects you to accept. If he believes that you will entertain him under these circumstances, then he learns that he does not need to bring integrity, accountability, or clarity to earn your connection. The dynamic starts with imbalance, and imbalance rarely transforms into stability. What matters most is understanding that his actions reflect his internal compass, not your value as a woman, and the more you elevate your standards, the more obvious this becomes. A man who sees you as someone worth cherishing will remove the barriers between you instead of navigating around them. He will not place you in a silent competition with someone who has no idea she's involved, and he will not treat you as a supplement to his life, but as someone deserving of a complete and honest place in it. A taken man who pursues you often isn't driven by the depth of his feelings, but by the depth of his ego, And understanding this helps you separate genuine intention from momentary impulse. Many men who reach outside their relationship aren't searching for a new partner. They're searching for a new feeling, something that temporarily lifts them out of boredom, insecurity, or emotional stagnation. In those moments, you become the spark that interrupts the monotony of his daily life, the person who reflects back the version of himself he wishes he still was. He enjoys the admiration, the novelty, and the attention far more than he contemplates the consequences or commitments involved. And instead of addressing his unhappiness where it actually exists, he gravitates toward the easy path of external validation. It's not that he wants you specifically, it's that he wants what your attention gives him emotionally. When a man is acting from ego, the chase is thrilling, but the follow-through is fragile, and this is the difference between someone who enjoys you versus someone who is ready for you. A man in this mindset is not evaluating a future with you, he is feeding a feeling within himself. This is why it is crucial to distinguish between attention and intention, because while attention feels flattering, intention is what sustains a relationship built on truth. Attention costs him nothing. It's effortless for him to send messages, flirt, share vulnerabilities, or express admiration because he risks none of the real responsibilities of a relationship with you. Intention, however, would require him to make actual decisions, take accountability, and realign his life in a way that honors both you and himself. A man seeking external validation is not prepared to do any of this, because his goal was never transformation, it was escape. He isn't introducing you to a new chapter, he's using you to avoid fixing the current one. Even his words of affection, his confessions of connection, or his claims of emotional dissatisfaction reflect more about his emotional avoidance than about any genuine commitment to you. If he truly believed you were the person he wanted, he wouldn't keep you hidden in the shadows of his choices. He wouldn't protect the comfort of his current situation while simultaneously drawing you into emotional complexity. And he wouldn't romanticize his struggles as justification for crossing boundaries he should be honoring. A man who pursues you while attached often wants emotional benefits without emotional responsibility, because responsibility would require transparency, courage, and difficult conversations he isn't ready to have. In seeking you out, he's looking for a soft place to land, not a solid place to build. And this is why so many of these dynamics collapse under the weight of unspoken truths. You become the emotional refuge, the safe listener, the person who provides empathy without demanding accountability, and he becomes accustomed to receiving without giving. This unequal dynamic gives him a sense of power and relief, while placing you in a position where you are emotionally investing in someone who has nothing real on the table. And the moment he feels exposed or uncomfortable, he can retreat back into the safety of his existing relationship, leaving you to navigate the emotional fallout alone. The harsh truth is that he enjoys the version of you that exists outside of responsibility, and that version fits perfectly into the emotional gaps he refuses to address. When a man operates from ego, he will always choose the path that costs him the least, and without realizing it, you become part of the ease he is seeking rather than the future he is creating. A man who is already committed but still seeks you is often chasing the sweetest parts of a relationship without taking on any of the weight that comes with them, and that imbalance becomes clear the moment you look at what he offers versus what he withholds. He gravitates toward the warmth of your attention, the thrill of your conversations, and the comfort you naturally bring, because those things require nothing from him but your presence. He wants the admiration without the accountability, the intimacy without the transparency, and the connection without the responsibility of choosing you fully. You become the emotional vacation he takes when real life feels too heavy, too repetitive, or too demanding for the version of himself he is willing to present. He enjoys how you make him feel, not because he is ready for something deeper with you, but because you give him a glimpse of ease that doesn't exist in his current situation. This dynamic turns you into a source of emotional relief rather than a partner, and he becomes someone who feeds on the best parts of you without offering anything substantial in exchange. When a man behaves this way, he is not building a bond with you, he is borrowing one. The more he leans on you as an alternative to responsibility, the clearer it becomes that he is not looking for a relationship, but for an outlet, and an outlet can never transform into a foundation. He brings you his excitement, but not his effort, his charm, but not his commitment, his stories, but not his truth. You get his vulnerable moments when he feels misunderstood or stressed, but he keeps his real life neatly tucked away behind a wall you are never allowed to cross. He shows up for the moments that feel light and validating, but he disappears from the moments that would require clarity, decisions, or consequences. In this space, you become the person who fills the emotional gaps he refuses to address within himself or within his current relationship. You are offering your empathy, your time, your softness, and your presence. But he offers you only what does not disrupt his comfort. And because he doesn't have to meet your needs, he doesn't have to grow emotionally to keep you close. You end up carrying all the vulnerability while he carries only the pleasure. Eventually, you begin to realize that he is drawing from you without ever pouring back into you, and this is where the emotional imbalance becomes impossible to ignore. He wants the connection you provide, but not the exclusivity that would make it real. He wants the reassurance that you desire him, but not the responsibility of choosing you openly. He wants the fantasy of intimacy without the reality of commitment. He enjoys the idea of being wanted by two women, the one who gives him stability and the one who gives him excitement, because that dynamic allows him to avoid confronting who he needs to become. Build something meaningful. When you ask for clarity, he becomes vague. When you ask for honesty, he becomes defensive. When you ask for commitment, he becomes overwhelmed. Not because he doesn't understand what you need, but because giving you what you deserve would require him to step out of the emotional comfort he has created for himself. And a man who seeks emotional benefits without accountability is not seeking a partner. He is seeking convenience, and convenience is never the foundation of a future. You teach a man how to treat you by what you accept, and when you allow a man who is already committed to have a place in your life, you unintentionally set the standard for how he believes he can show up. If he learns that access to you does not require honesty, clarity, or availability, he will continue giving you the bare minimum while expecting the maximum from your heart. The dynamic becomes shaped not by what you deserve, but by what he can get away with, and the longer it continues, the more you begin to feel the emotional consequences of standards that were too low for the depth of your worth. A man who truly values you will never want to keep you in the shadows or in second place, and he will never view withholding commitment as acceptable behavior towards someone he genuinely sees a future with. When you raise your standards, you shift the entire direction of the connection because it forces him to either rise to meet you or fall away. Your boundaries become the filter that protects you from men who want your energy without offering their own in return, and they help you create a life where your emotional investment is matched. Choosing yourself in these moments isn't about rejection. It's about respecting your own capacity for love too much to waste it on someone who isn't fully available. When you make it clear that you will not participate in a dynamic built on secrecy or half-commitment, you elevate your value in a way that no amount of attention or affection from an unavailable man ever could. You communicate through your actions, not just your words, that you are someone who requires intentionality, consistency, and openness from anyone who wants a place in your life. This instantly separates you from the women who settle for temporary emotions instead of long-term stability, and it sends a message that your time cannot be treated casually. A man who genuinely wants you will have no issue stepping into honesty and clarity, because choosing you will feel like the natural extension of his values, not a burden. But a man who only wants you in a way that benefits him will resist your standards because they expose the truth about his intentions. The more you hold firm to what you deserve, the faster you uncover who he really is underneath the charm and the chemistry. And in that clarity, you reclaim the power he silently tried to take by keeping you in a position where you were always waiting, hoping, or compromising. Setting boundaries with a man who is already taken is ultimately an act of self-alignment, because it forces you to treat yourself in the same high regard you expect from others. It pushes you to ask deeper questions about what you want, what you're willing to tolerate, and what kind of love you are building your life around. When you choose the version of yourself that refuses to settle for half of someone, you honor the future you want to experience. You stop viewing his mixed signals as signs of potential and start seeing them as evidence of incompatibility. You recognize that a relationship that begins in secrecy inevitably demands sacrifices you should never be responsible for making. And you understand that protecting your peace sometimes requires walking away from someone you care about, because caring is not the same as being cared for. Holding strong to your standards transforms you from someone who waits for a man's availability into someone who demands it, not out of pressure, but out of self-respect.